the lifestyle that it gives you. It's not the money. So don't think money is going to make you, don't be the someday when I have 100,000 in the bank, 500,000, 5 million. It's an illusion. Money is just an illusion. It's a tool to get you the happiness that you want to have. So don't get caught up in the number, get caught up in the journey.
Thanks for tuning into this episode where me and Austin get to interview a guy who sold a company for 7 figures and now he's scaling upwards more and more. He has several companies that he's investing in. He has a huge net worth, and he's got some awesome gold nuggets that we implement that you can also go implement today. Anyways, tune in. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of the Gold Nugget Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Austin Wilder and Mr. Steve. Say hi, Austin.
How's it going, guys? Pleasure to be here today with you, Steven.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, Steve, I know you probably have been on multiple platforms and told your story multiple times, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but would you give the listeners just kind of a quick synopsis, like just kind of where you came from to the type of success you're seeing now, like what level are you operating, so that when we drop these gold nuggets, they know they're the real deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually being an airline pilot. So I didn't get into business or real estate by choice. Growing up as a little kid, all I ever wanted to do was be a pilot and fly airplanes. And I got hired with a major airline at 25 years old. And it was the best job in the world. It was the most safe and the most secure job, in my opinion, that anybody could ask for, until a certain day in history happened. And that day was 9/11. And that was the day that I basically realized that my job was not safe and it was not secure, because 48 hours after that, I got delivered a furlough notice that basically said, hey, thanks for playing, but your safe, secure job is not safe. It's not secure. And you're about to be on the street with 50,000 other pilots. So good luck. And, it really was humbling at that moment for me, because when you grow up trying to do one thing, a career, that's all I ever wanted to do. And you realize that you're not as valued as you thought you were. And the job that you've been trained for your whole life is about to be useless, because they don't teach you to do anything else except fly airplanes as a pilot. So I couldn't go. I started looking at other jobs and things that I could do if the airline industry, went sideways. And I had no skill set. The only skill set I had was to fly an airplane. And, you realize you're a very small cog in a very big wheel. And that happened within about 48 hours. So it wasn't like the industry was changing over 6 months. The industry changed. My life changed in about 48 hours. And so I started just trying to figure out what I would do if this didn't work. And so I started looking at real estate and started realizing that was maybe an option for me. There was a lot of wealth to it. It was a leverageable asset. You could scale it. So I just started reading as much as I could about real estate. And that led to me owning rental properties, flipping, wholesaling, kind of a standard story. I did a lot of things wrong. Probably about 80% of the stuff I touched turned to shit. I got ripped off, lied to, you name it, kicked in the face, punched. And I didn't have a choice. I had to keep getting up, because that was my only option. I had no other option but to keep getting up and keep trying. That led me to creating a management company for my properties. And that's when everything kind of took off for me. I created a business, me and my business partner. We scaled that business in 7 years to over 1,000 properties. We were operating in 3 different cities. Long story short, we ended up exiting and selling that business for 7 figures to a much larger conglomerate company. And then I've been kind of off doing a lot of influencing and coaching, mentoring of what I've learned. I've spoken around the United States. I've done tours through Australia. All about how to run their real estate business, how to be business people, because real estate is just a business, right? It's just 4 walls and a roof. It's the business that's running inside that 4 walls and the roof that will make you successful. So I've learned that everything that you do in life, it runs down to the business model that's attached to it. Whatever you want to throw on top of it, whether it's a stock or real estate or whatever, donut shop, whatever you want to call it, it all boils down to the same business chassis that it runs under.
Yeah. So, man, kind of sounded like you're a little bit of Rich Dad, Poor Dad in there. You're talking about like the danger of having one skill. Like he talks about that in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like you had mentioned that they only taught you how to be a pilot. Well, what's after that? And like, they don't teach you financial literacy and all that. And so I'm kind of getting a little sidetracked, but kind of moving on to the next point. Can you chat a little bit about some of your biggest failures And then I wanted to bring up some gold nuggets that we can implement on how you overcame those.
Yeah. I've had a lot of them. I actually authored a book. I have a book about my failures because I made so many of them. I couldn't tell them every time. So I'm like, I'll just write a book and just buy the book. It's easier. But I made, the challenge I had was at the time, I didn't have anybody telling me and guiding me, or at least I didn't think I did. They were there. I wasn't, I'll take ownership. I wasn't seeking those people out. And I thought the old adage was, if you want something done, you got to roll up your sleeves, you got to be a hard worker, you got to grind it out, right? Well, that's actually not true, right? What I've learned is the hardest worker in the room is the first person tired. The smartest person in the room, that's a different story. And if you think about it, if the hardest working people were the wealthiest, then construction people and day laborers would be the wealthiest people on the planet, but they're not. So what is it that people are doing? So I learned that just because I was working hard, I was working nights, I was working weekends, I was away from my family, and I was never achieving what I thought. I was making a fraction of the money that I thought that I should be making. Nobody said I would, but I thought, well, I'm busting my ass. I should be making some money here. And I wasn't. And I was going the wrong direction. So the biggest mistake I had was I had no final destination. I had never actually thought of the goal of what it was I was doing. It was kind of like driving on the freeway. I just got on the freeway and I was just driving as fast as I can, but I wasn't driving to anywhere. So one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on was I never set a goal. And so I was just, if something was a deal, I did it because I thought it was a deal. I didn't have anything to gauge it against. And so for people watching, if you want to make sure that you're going to be successful, start with the end and work backwards. Create a destination and then go backwards towards the strategy. And that is how you can be successful. Or at least that's the first mistake I made. I made many, but that was probably one of the biggest that cost me thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you mentioned two gold nuggets in that sentence. You had mentioned like the smartest person in the room versus the hardest worker. I grew up with an entrepreneur family who were landscape architects. So I grew up digging ditches. I can work hard, but we grew up in a mobile home. And so my entire life, it's like, how come I'm the hardest working person on the football team, on the baseball team. I watch my parents and I'm just constantly getting injured. And so kind of boiling that down into two gold nuggets, you'd mentioned the importance of like the community, like how important it was to be together, go find other people that are already doing it. So like that's a gold nugget. Go find someone who's doing it and add value to them. And another gold nugget you had mentioned was starting with the end in mind. Like there's people out there who are just mindlessly running about and not knowing where they're going. Like they're on the freeway driving, but they don't know where the destination is. They're just taking actions that aren't moving the needle forward. Wouldn't you say that's kind of two gold nuggets, basically what you said?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I think what a lot of people do is they relate being busy to being effective. And there's no correlation. You can drive around your neighborhood all day long and go, man, I've been driving all day. But you're going to go, yeah, but you didn't fucking leave the neighborhood. You didn't go anywhere. It was the one person that gets in the car and drives on the freeway from A to B and he goes, I made it there in half the time. And the other guy's going, man, I've been driving all day long. So what happens is a lot of times we, especially with business people, when we get involved in a new business, we run a very reactive life. And what I mean by that is we react to everything. We do not plan our days. And if we don't plan our day, we probably don't plan our life. So what happens is all of a sudden at the end of the day, and I know this from having employees and people, you go, what are you doing with why are you so busy? I don't know. I'm just busy. Well, busy doing what? I don't know. The phone won't ring. The phone won't stop ringing. I'm putting out fires. I'm constantly reacting. It's like, okay, well, how do we get you to proactively, right? So you have people that are successful that'll make 10, 100 times more money than someone else. And you go, what is it they're doing? What I have learned is it's a deselection process. It's a matter of deselecting things in your life, not selecting. So people think that in order to be effective, you have to do more things. It's actually not true. You actually can do less. And if you do one thing and you focus on what that one thing is and say no, which look, it's hard to say no. I get it because you don't know where that next opportunity is. But it goes back to the first thing I said. If you had a goal and you knew what you were doing, you could always ask yourself, if someone says like, hey, do you want to get in on this project? Do you want to do this type of business? If you always reference it to what your end goal is, that's how you would say yes or no, I'm not going to do this. So a lot of people, they get their day, they start their day, and just shit starts happening through their day on their calendar, and they never get anything done on their calendar because they allowed other things to penetrate their days and their times, as opposed to saying, no, I have my day, I have my calendar, everything revolves around that. If it doesn't fit in, I'm not saying you don't do it, but that's where leverage, delegation, automation, and systemization come in. I'm not saying things don't need to be done. What I am saying is we have a superhero complex and an ego a lot of times where we think we are the smartest people and we have to do it. And the reality is we're not the best people to do a task if we're trying to do a whole bunch of tasks. So I don't know if that answered the kind of second part, but there's probably a couple things in there for you.
No. Oh yeah, Steve, there's a lot to unpack there. And that's honestly, if you're a listener right now, I would back it up about 2 minutes and go listen to that again, because there's a lot of good stuff in that little bit you just went on.
I like it. I was trying to take notes and I wrote 4 or 5 more bullet points wanted to bring it back to it. One of the gold nuggets is you said so many people fall into the reactive box. Well, I'm actually looking at a piece of paper. I tried to separate reactive and proactive. Like, what is reactive? Like, reactive is looking at your emails, your phone notifications. And then proactive is, for instance, for me, I'm in the real estate business. So proactive is making offers every single day, making my sales calls. So that's a gold nugget that Steve is mentioning. Like, you need to go home and start 2 different boxes and be like, what is reactive and what is proactive? And in the proactive box, right, you're like Steve mentioned, you may not complete everything that day, but you're going to complete the top 3 most important things that are going to move the boulder or move the needle forward, however you say it. And so, Steve, do you have any gold nuggets similar kind of to like what I mentioned on how do you determine the difference between what's being productive versus what's just busy work? Like, how do you look at that?
Oh, absolutely, man. I can give a whole nother tirade on that one. But here, let me back up. You know, a lot of people, they ask me, they're like, Steve, how did you do all this? Like, you have a family, right? You're an airline pilot. So I'm a commercial airline pilot. I have a career. I've got a job, right? And I built a multi-million-dollar business. I own real estate. I speak. I do a lot of, I'm like an onion, right? I got a bunch of layers, right? And so people are always like, how do you do that? And, you know, I say, well, I start off, I get up at 4 a.m. and I go to the gym and I'm at the gym for 2 hours. And then I start planning my day. And people will say like, oh man, I could never do that. And my answer back to them initially is you can't or you won't. You choose not to every single day. So every morning when you wake up, you have a choice to make in your life. So people that are trying to be entrepreneurs, you have a choice. If I've got to get up at 2 a.m. to get my day going, I get up at 2 a.m. I don't have a choice. That is what I do. So if people tell me they can't do it, I'm telling them it's not that you can't, right? You just choose not to. You want to choose to be lazy. You want to choose to be a loser. I could give a shit, right? I don't care, right? I can pat you on the back and say, it's okay. Yeah, that's fine. You're probably busy. But at the end of the day, I have my own life. I have my own problems. I have my own stuff I have to do. If it makes you feel better to tell me that you can't do something so that I can say it's okay, then I'll tell you it's okay. But I really don't care. So what I tell people to do is, look, if you want to control your day, control your day. It's really that simple, right? So what I do is this is my daily ritual, okay? I'll tell you what I do. I get up in the morning. I listen to high frequency music, right? It's like a binaural beats that someone told me about. Does it work? Fuck, I don't know, but I listen to it, right? Then I sit down and I write out my I am statements. Okay. So my I am statements are 20 statements that I write every single day about who I am in the future, right? I'm a best-selling author, right? I used to say that I'm going to be touring. I'm a nationally recognized tour. Well, what happened? I started touring Australia, right? You start writing affirmations about who you are, right? They're in the present tense. I won't go into that, but I write my I am statements every single day. I rewrite them. Then I flip the page. So this is a document that I created for myself, right? I don't need a fancy notebook or some shit that I have to buy. This is a piece of paper that I printed. I flip it over and I go, okay, what are my 7 non-negotiables that I have to do today? Now, I don't have to fill up the 7, but what are the 7 things that I have to do? And when I write them in the non-negotiable box, I have to get them done. I don't have a choice, right? So let's say let's say I'm coaching someone, mentoring someone. Let's say I have a meeting. Those are non-negotiables. I have to get those done. I got to make a phone call. My day does not end until I cross those off. I literally cross them off, okay? So then from there, I have just things that I need to do. So the things that I need to do are just a list of things, just shit I got to do, get my oil change stuff. It's not a non-negotiable. Let me show you. Actually, here, I got them right here.
Oh, I love it.
So this is what I do. I tape it to a freaking notebook and I carry it around, right? And then on the other side are my I am statements. These are my I am statements. These are my things to do. I do it every single morning, and then I meditate. Does it work? Fuck, I don't know, but I do it, right? So I meditate for 15 minutes. I get a YouTube video, guided meditation. I sit there and I just try. I try, right? I'm trying to get better at it. And then I start my day. And then as soon as I get back from the gym, I go and I start my list. And what I do is the things that are non-negotiables, I put those in my calendar. So those are immovable. If they go on my calendar, it's getting done. That's all there is to it. And so those are the things that I do. That's how I run my day. I don't let my day run me. So that's something for people that are in a business. Everybody has a reason why they can't do something. Nobody cares about your problems, right? Everybody has a reason. I don't care. Tell me what you can do. You know, everybody always tells me what they can't do. It's like we talk about going to the gym. They go, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, why don't you tell me what you can do? You could go for 20 minutes. You can go for 10 minutes. Fuck, you can go for, I don't give a shit. You could go. You're just choosing not to. But instead of everyone always focuses on what they can't do, but you can just as much focus on what you can do if you focus on that. You can do things. You can get up 20 minutes earlier. You can get up an hour. You choose not to. So I'm sorry, don't mean to go on a tirade here, but going back to, you want to be focused and you want to be successful. Nobody is going to open that door for you. Some days you have to kick that door down. Some day it's going to slam back in your face and no one's going to care, right? You may sit here and talk to someone and be like, oh man, that sucks. Sorry to hear the door slammed you back in the face, but I got my own problem. So good luck to you, right? You have to make your own destiny. You have to get up every single day, because if you don't, there is someone right behind you that will climb over your back, step on your throat to beat you to the punch. And you have to realize that every day. See, a lot of us are so lazy. We think it's okay to be lazy that day, thinking there's no one behind you. But the day that there's somebody comes over your back, steps on you, pushes your face in the sand and keeps walking, then you realize, and by that time it's too late because they've already got the jump on you. And so my thing is I had that from 9/11, right? That was my wake-up call, because when 9/11 happened to me, I realized that I allowed myself to be put in a situation that I got lazy. I thought, you know what? I got a job as an airline pilot. I'm good. I don't need to do anything else, right? And maybe if 9/11 never happened, maybe I'd have been okay. But to me, that was a slap in the face to me to say, you know, shame on you for allowing yourself to get lazy and let someone else dictate and control your life. And, you know, you talk about 9/11 and then we have COVID right now, right? So 20 years later. Okay. So a lot of people will ask me, they'll say, Steve, you know, you're an airline pilot. You're still an airline pilot. What's different between the day 9/11 happened to you and what's going on today? Like, how are you different? And it's one word. I just tell people it's one word: action. I took action every single day. It was wrong action. Sometimes it was backwards action. I didn't know what I was doing, but you know what? Every single day I took action. And I tell people, because of that, I'm in a much better position now than I was back on 9/11. And that's all it is, right? It's just a matter of repetitive, momentous action over and over again until you figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Man, and I love it. I love it right there. So one of the issues I had was I got into analysis paralysis because I was overanalyzing everything and I was not taking action. And so to turn that into a gold nugget right there is, when all else fails, just take action. Like, take action when all else fails, because I put taking action in my proactive box. Like I mentioned earlier, you have a reactive box and a proactive box. Taking action when all else fails is in the proactive box. Even if, like he said, even if you're taking a step back, because you're going to learn from that. You're going to learn from taking action. But dude, that's awesome. I'm like getting the chills all pumped up.
Well, and you know, and here's the thing. A lot of times, I'll give you an example. So when I talk to people, you know, and I coach people, and they'll be like, yeah, I can't find any deals, right? I'm looking, I can't find any deals. How many deals are you looking at? A lot. Give me a lot. Give me a freaking number, right? 20. Are you kidding me? You should be looking at 50 a day. I'm like, until you get 50 a day, don't call me back. I'm like, because here's the thing. I'm not here to be someone's friend. I'm here to make you successful. You want to be successful? You talk to me. You want someone to make you feel better? I'm not that guy. But I tell people, like, when we talk about analyzing deals, when we talk about doing stuff, the numbers that we think we're doing, like people say, like, oh, I'm no good at sales. I'll tell you what, when you make 500 phone calls a day, every day for the next year, I guarantee you will get better at sales. But when you're doing 2, then I guarantee you're going to suck, right? It's just natural. But, you know, we want someone to say, like, oh yeah, that's okay. And listen, I'm not saying that you have to do these things. they have to be done. And the one thing about owning a business I've learned is you have multiple facets of a business. You've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got operations, you've got finance, and you've got IT. Those are the pillars of a business. You starting a business have to realize that you have all those pillars that you have to fill. Sometimes in the beginning of a business, you are all those pillars. You're wearing all those hats. And so identifying those roles, job duties, and descriptions when you're doing a business, okay, marketing makes the phone ring. Sales answers the phone. Those are two different roles. Those are different disc profiles. Those are different jobs, personalities, everything. Marketing people make shitty salespeople and vice versa, right? Then you got operations. Those are different types of people. Then you've got finance, different type of people. So you have to look at that when you're starting a business is you have to look and say, okay, what am I good at and what am I not good at? Where does the best use of my skill set and my time? And then what can I outsource? What can I automate? Or what can I systematize? It's really mathematical. So one of the takeaways you'd asked about, what people could take away from this, what I recommend people doing is if they were to take their day, so going back to what you do with your day, and whenever I coach people, the first thing I make them do is a 2-week time study. And I tell them, I want you to write down every single day from the time you wake up to the time that you go to bed. I want to see everything that you do, right? You want to go on a diet, you start writing down your food, right? You want to see where your bank account's going, you start tracking your money. You want to see where your time's going, start a time study. So what I have them do is they have to write down everything that they do. I don't care if they're taking a leak for 5 minutes. I want to see where it is in their day, right? Eating dinner, 3 hours, right? Social media, 2 hours. Driving in the car, 4 hours. And then at the end of the day, they have to totalize what they've done. So for the total of the day, I was on social media for 3 hours. I was driving in the car for 5 hours. You totalize it. And then the third part of this puzzle is you have to write an executive summary of your day. I don't care what you're saying, but you're just basically telling me how do you think your day was and where do you think you spent your time? Now, what happens is over the course of 2 weeks of you doing this every day, you will all of a sudden realize what you're wasting time doing, what you're not good at doing or don't like doing, and what can be moved away to someone else. Now, when I coach people, I tell them the day that you don't send it to me is the day I stop coaching. So if you're not serious, don't waste my time, right? Because you have to want it more than me. I can't make you be successful. So my point is that if people want to see where their time's going and they want to see what they can be successful at, all of a sudden they realize like, man, maybe I'm not spending as much time in my business as I really thought I was. Instead of it being 8 hours, maybe it's more like 3.5 hours. And maybe I'm dicking around the other 3 or 4 hours, social media and this and that. That's not work, right? That's just fun stuff. So again, for people to do something, you want to see where your time's going and what the best use of your time, do a time study for 2 weeks. And I guarantee you will realize what you should and should not be doing.
Man, I love it. I can kind of tell you a personal experience of that exact method. I did something similar. I read a book called Atomic Habits, and I write down everything, and you put a plus or a minus. And man, because I'm leading a couple life groups for my church where I have to prepare for these lessons, getting the word every morning. And I was getting behind. I was showing up to life group and not having anything. I wasn't making any sales calls for the business. And I was like, why am I working so hard, not seeing anything? And then I read through Atomic Habits and I did that. And I've had a couple of weeks where I'm making 600 phone calls. I'm making like 100 offers a week, and I'm staying caught up on being in the word and still being able to go share the gospel. So like having all that, like looking at my day, like that's my personal experience. Like it allowed me to be more productive, like knowing your time. Like that's a gold nugget right there, is knowing your time. Like if you're out there hustling and you don't know your time, like you don't know where you're spending what, like that's a gold nugget to go home and implement right now. Like go study your day, like what time is going where. But
yeah,
that's awesome. Well, man, dude, this is some good stuff. I gotta pay attention to the clock because I'll stay here for another 4 hours if I don't pay attention. I love this stuff, man. So, well, I guess the next point is like, what, as far as a gold nugget that somebody can go home and implement, like where was your turning point? Like what did you implement? Like where you had a day that you were hustling and it just kind of like a light bulb, it switched and it was like, I have to do that. Like, for example, for me, where my light bulb was, I figured out the power in your why. Like, cause my why as like the fuel for a car, the fuel is what makes the car go forward. Like to me, that's where the light bulb kind of switched. The second I knew my why, and like I studied my why, like why I want to chase being a millionaire. I started seeing success. Like, do you have any gold nuggets? Like, where was your turning point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the a very large turning point for me was when we had our property management company. We took our eye off the ball of what our expenses were, and we are expanding and we are growing. And look, let me before I tell you this, let me say that everybody goes in cycles, right? It's like a tree. A tree grows or dies. Your business is growing or it's dying. It never stays the same. So our business was dying, but we chose not to see that. We ignored it because we're chalking our losses up to our expansion, because we're expanding into some other cities and we're putting our losses to those cities because we were choosing not to face the issue that we had too many, our staff was not being productive. And we started learning the value of leverage of outsourcing. So we started working with a lot of virtual assistants, and we started doing a lot of work with virtual assistants down in Mexico. And we started realizing how much more we could scale our business in Mexico. And we realized that, so when you talk about percentage of revenue of payroll, we were doing about 59% of our revenue for payroll was going to payroll. Well, that caused us to lose money and lose, we're losing. We started, all of a sudden we looked at the numbers and we started dissecting the actual number. And it was like, holy shit, we're losing like 20, 30 grand a month here. Now, all of a sudden, I was like, okay, we got a problem, right? This isn't growth. We're not investing in growth. We're losing money because of our staffing issues. To us, that was a turning point of understanding the value of leverage. So we moved some positions around. We scaled up Mexico operations. We ended up scaling that we had 66% of our company was being run out of Mexico with virtual assistants. We got so good at it that we actually created our own placement company, and we placed virtual assistants for other companies and people because we got so good at it. Because here's the thing that we learned is the value of leveraging other people that are in their verticals can scale your business exponentially. And we realized that at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for your shareholders of your company. Shareholders were me and my business partner. We had another partner, right? We're the shareholders and our spouses. So we had to realize that we had to make some tough decisions, but we had to do what was best for the company. And at that point, we made the decision to grow the company through another strategy. And that was kind of our turning point, that we had to realize that if you want to scale, you have to master leverage. There's no way that you can scale if you cannot master leverage. And when you're dealing with leverage, that is employee costs. And so we were able to bring our employee costs down to 33%. Now, when you're running multi-million-dollar business from 59% to 33%, that's a big number. And that's bottom line, which goes from you swinging a loss to swinging a profit. And so that was one of our key moments of understanding leverage. Of, like I said earlier, understanding that you're not always the smartest person that needs to be the one doing it. And so leverage is huge. Like a lot of us, especially if you have one person, one man band, or whatever your business is you're doing, you think that you don't have the money or time to do it. But you have to ask yourself, the biggest thing that people need to think about is what's called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is basically asking yourself, what opportunity am I not seeing because I'm doing some low-level, low-enjoyment tasks that I should not even be doing? And so you may be saving $6 an hour, but you just passed up $100,000 profit deal because you weren't out there looking for it. And look, the deal of a lifetime in any business passes by your face once a week. You're just sometimes too busy in the business not to see it. So one of the things that I suggest people is, if you're trying to start a business, you need to separate out and work on your business a minimum of 4 hours a week. So you have to remove yourself. Now, working on the business is creating systems, policies, procedures. So basically, the definition of a business is a commercial profitable enterprise that runs without you. Very simple, right? Commercial profitable enterprise, it's a business that makes money. The running without you part is the key. So if you are an integral part of this thing operating, you don't own a business, you own a job. There's nothing wrong with owning a job, but make sure you know the definition of a job and the definition of a business. If you cannot walk away from a week, a month, a year, and you come back and it be bigger than when you left it, you don't own the job. You don't own a business, you own a job. And the only way you can do that is by understanding systems, policies, procedures, and scaling it out that way. And that was a big moment for us to do.
Man, I love it. So can you repeat that one more time? During that 4 hours, what are those 4 categories? Like that part.
Yeah. So, when you work on the business. So I recommend you get away from your phone, get away from the office, go somewhere that's a neutral general area, and you start working on the business. You create your policies, your procedures. So let's say, for example, let's just start with an organization chart, right? So whenever I coach people and they want to start their business, you have an organization chart, right? That's the blueprint of your business. Mm-hmm. You've got marketing, sales, operations, finance. Okay. You may be the one, and then you put names in there. Well, maybe it's Justin, Austin. Okay. We're doing those. Not always going to be, but right now we're the only 2 guys. So we're doing it. So then you say, okay, what does that do? What does marketing do? So you got to create a job description for that, because if you're going to hire that out, if Austin gets hit by a truck tomorrow, hope you don't, Austin, but if Austin gets hit by a truck tomorrow, how do I step in and do Austin's job? And if I can't step in and do Austin's job, there's a problem. So it took us about 2 years to systematize and automate our business. And it was painstakingly tough, but that's how we were able to scale to Mexico, was because we had so many systems and procedures. Anybody we could take in, everybody was interchangeable. It's almost like there's a great book called The E-Myth, right? You should be able to systematize your business so that it's running through a system like McDonald's, right? We could take any employee and they could look at the systems manual and they could do that job because we trained them to do it through the systems. Train them once, have the manual, and you're good to go.
You're supposed to manage systems, not people, I believe.
Yes, you systemize. Yeah, the rule is it's the Pareto's principle. You systematize 80%, you humanize 20%.
I love it. I appreciate you repeating that. The reason I asked you to repeat it is, I see my parents personally, they're focused in their business, and I'm constantly harping on go home and work on your business. So if you're listening to this episode, rewind it and go write out those areas he was talking about for on the business. Like that's the gold nugget, like go work on the business. Now, man, the next thing you had mentioned, you said it took 2 years to systemize and you said it was painful. Now I want to break it back down to that. What's a gold nugget to kind of help you get through that painful process? Like I want to focus a little more on the mentality of that, because we just gave some people some business knowledge. What about the mindset? Like what about when you're trying to systemize it and you want to quit because you just start something hard?
That goes to having your why, right? That goes to having your why in the vision. You have to understand that when you own a business, you're the CEO of that business, and your job is to be the leader, cheerleader. You are leading the team. People will follow you because you have a vision. They follow a leader. People don't go to work for a job and a paycheck. They go to work because they believe in something and they're making a difference. Your job is to make them believe that they're making the difference and that they made the right decision. So now when you talk about what it is they have to do, the way that we realized that we had shitty systems and stuff is we brought a gentleman in that we paid to help us automate our company. And he was the guy who helped us for 2 years. And he sat me, my business partner, and our senior property manager down, and he left the room. He had each of us leave the room, and he kept one in there and he said, okay, when you get a new client, tell me how does a new client come into your business? So she told him, this is how we do it. He said, okay, call Steven. So he calls me in. I asked me, he says, so when you get a new client, did the whole thing, told him how we do it. My business partner, same thing. They were all completely different. They weren't even close to the same. And he goes, until you can all be on the same line, you're never going to grow. And you're always going to have chaos. And when you're in chaos, you're not in control. When you're not in control, you're not making money. So he says, you have to be able to deliver that product consistently all the time. So you start off with just saying, okay, it's as simple as, okay, when the phone rings, how many times does the phone ring? Does it ring once? Does it ring 3 times? There's got to be a standard. Oh, it rings 3 times. Okay, when they pick up the phone, what do they say? Well, they say hello. No, they don't say hello. They got to say something else. How can I help you? So they get a script. And then, okay, let's say it's a client and they want something. Okay, now there's a script for questions. So I'm a big believer in script writing. I'm a big believer in having everything crafted. Leave nothing to the imagination. Everything is crafted and you have to own it. And you can direct people where you want them to go by that. But it all has to be laid out. And so it's literally step by step by step. And so if you were to think about what you do when you get a deal, if I said, Justin, when you get a deal, what's the first thing you do? You're like, well, first thing I do is I go look at the deal. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I analyze numbers. Okay, what are you analyzing them against? So it's like act like I'm a 3-year-old and I have no idea what you're talking about, and you're explaining to me how you do real estate, and that's basically how you start systematizing your company, essentially.
Yeah, man, I really like that. I like that. You know, speaking on what you said in the beginning about having an exit strategy, trying to get to that exit strategy. If you want your day today to be simple, you're going to have a really complex way of getting to that exit strategy. But like if you make your day and these systems and you spend the time making the complex decisions to get your systems there to where they're simple, you're going to have a simple time getting to that exit strategy.
Yeah. And look, the thing is you can never look, things are going to happen to you. Bad things are going to happen to you in business. You cannot change things that happen to you. The only thing you can change is how you react to them. So it's the story you tell yourself. Bad things happen to good people all the time. There's nothing we can do to stop that. People are going to lie to you. They're going to rip you off. They're going to do all these things. How you take that and how you react to that, that is the difference. And that's what you really need to focus on. You need to become better at understanding and the story you tell yourself to be successful. Look, when your life is easy, you're not growing, you're shrinking. I mean, that's the reality. Easy life means you're dying and you're shrinking. I'm not saying it has to be hard all the time, but if you're not challenging yourself and you're not trying to be better, I guarantee you're getting worse. You're either getting better or worse every single minute of the day. And if you're not challenging yourself, you are getting worse. You just don't realize it. Sometimes not until your bank account says 0. And then you realize, holy shit, I've been really letting myself go. And then it's too late.
No, you're absolutely right. And man, I just want to tell you this, Steve, one of the things that I want to applaud you on, because I know this is like something a lot of people struggle with. I think you are incredibly self-accountable. I think you hold yourself you're a very disciplined person. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. And I'm sure you struggled with it too at some point in your life. But I think once you can make that mind shift to where, you're saying, okay, I just have to do this. Like, that's just how it is. That's when you're going to start to see some genuine change in your life.
Yeah. I think discipline is a muscle. And I think like anything, it's like going to the gym and working out. It's something, it doesn't just happen, right? Winners aren't just born, they're bred, right? People that are successful are bred. They're trained to be certain people over time. It's like getting a black belt in martial arts. Right? You don't just walk in and you're a black belt. You have to train martial arts. You've got to do that for years and years. MMA, anything you want to talk about, right? It's muscle memory and repetition. Same thing with being disciplined. Same thing for being successful, and same thing for being for losing, right? Successful people have a recipe. So do people who fail and lose. They have a recipe. So when you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm not going to do this, or I choose not to, that is a recipe for failure. You're following a recipe. So you are making a decision. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm just not going to do this. By not doing this, you're doing that. So every day you have a decision point. And that, to me, the focal point of that is when you wake up. That is the focal point of when you decide if you're going to be successful or not. At least that's how I look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I attack it and approach it.
I love it, man. I'm over here getting the chills. But dude, there's some awesome business knowledge you just dropped. But you had mentioned like knowing your why, like the business knowledge. Like this is why I wanted to start this podcast, because you just dropped some awesome business knowledge. But people are going to go home and they're going to start implementing it, and then they're going to face some insecurities. They're going to face some failure trying to implement that. And so like, can you give me a few minutes on talking about like, while you gain this business knowledge, you also have to know your why and your vision. I know you mentioned that, like you start with the end in mind, like you already mentioned that, but like your why, like for me, my why is I want to be able to have financial freedom, to have that freedom to go across the US and be a motivational speaker. Like that's my why. So I got this business knowledge, but even though I have the knowledge, I'm still going to face some insecurities. Like, can you tell the listeners how important it is to know your why?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, that is what drives you through the dark days and the self-doubt. And when people are telling you it's not going to work, that's when your why comes in. Now, the one thing I'll say, and this is something I've learned, and I say this very respectfully to the people watching and listening. Entrepreneurs, we tend to be very selfish people. And what I mean by that is we read books, right? We listen to podcast shows, right? We go to courses, events. We take all this information in and we don't share it with the people that we love and the family members that we're trying to do it for. So if you're married, if you have a loved one, children, and you don't share it with them, you're being selfish. You're trying to do it for them, but they have no idea what you're doing. And so my recommendation is for people that are starting out in a business, whether or not your spouse is involved in it, I'm not saying they need to be in the business, but what I am saying is they need to be involved in the sense of knowing what is going on, what your goals are, and what your strategy is. So that when your why is fading and you're starting to self-doubt yourself, you can have your spouse kick you in and be like, no, you're doing the right thing. This is part of the plan. Because as entrepreneurs, we're kind of on an island. There's not many of us out there, right? So there's no rule book. There's no, Entrepreneurs Anonymous, right? We can't go to a place and kind of all talk about all the shit that we're doing, right? We're trying to figure out, you're watching social media, you're seeing other people succeed, all these Photoshop paychecks and rented Lambos and shit they have. Like, you're like, man, I want that, but you're kind of like, why don't I have that? Like, I deserve that. But the problem is you don't share it with your loved ones. So my recommendation is your spouse and you, children, you should create a board of directors team. And they are the board of directors. And so when you say, okay, wife, here's our plan. This is our Disneyland. Like, we have a goal has to have a destination, meaning it has to have a time limit, and it's got to have a quantifiable amount. So you can't just say, I want to have this. It's like, you have to have a date. By January 5th of 2025, I want to have $25,000 a month in passive income coming in. That is a destination. Just saying I want money and to be free, that's just like throwing a rock in the dark, right? You don't even know where it is, right? You got to have a finite destination. So now you know the goal. Joanne, my wife, do you agree with where we're going? Are we all on the same page here? She may be like, I don't agree with that at all. So you got to make sure that they have buy-in. You got to get buy-in from the spouse. And then what I recommend is every month or every quarter, you have a board of directors meeting so that you can let them know where you are. Am I on track? Am I off track? Am I achieving what I set out to achieve? So you said, for example, like you said, Justin, like you're trying to look at deals. You may say, okay, I need to close a deal every quarter. So that means you've got to find a property once a quarter. So every month, that means that you have to have looked at so many properties. Maybe you've got to talk to so many owners. You should set up KPI metrics. So then when you have your meeting, your board of directors meeting, you sit down and you go, okay, here's where we are. Here's how much money we have. Here's how much money we've made. Here's our KPI metrics. I'm either on target or off target. Why are you off target? Well, because of this, and this. Okay, do we need to change the goal? Because at this rate, we're not going to hit the goal. Okay, maybe we need to change the goal. Or you know what? Maybe this strategy I'm doing isn't working. Based on the numbers, based on the metrics, right? A business is data and numbers. It is not emotions and gut reaction. But you have to have the support of your wife or your whatever you have, children, to be involved. And I think that's something that we vitally miss because we want to do it ourselves, right? We want to have that superhero complex. We want to do it for them, but we don't even know if that's what they really want because we don't ask them. And they don't even know what you're doing. They just know you're busy. Justin's in the closet again doing his radio show. I don't know what he's doing, but he's busy, and you're like, and she doesn't know. And so my advice is always make sure that you include the spouse and set up regular board of directors meetings on a calendar, not the someday calendar, which is the busiest day because it never comes. Put it on an actual date. Every month, we're going to sit down and we're going to go over the numbers. I'm going to go over my KPIs and I'm going to be accountable to you so that we know that we're on track to reach the goal. And then you can have conversations.
So, man, really to sum that up into a gold nugget is who is your accountability? Like, I love the saying, iron sharpens iron. So Steve isn't saying to go find some person off the wall that's going to bring you down where you tell them your goals and they're going to tell you, oh, you can't do that. You want to find somebody that's going to buy into the vision and hold you accountable. But right. Man, I've hit a lot of the bullet points. Is there any final bullet points or gold nuggets that you want to chat about before we close things up?
No, I mean, I think, look, business is not easy, right? I mean, look, at the end of the day, it is not easy. It's not for the weak of heart. It's, a lot of people have the illusion that a job is more safe and more secure. And I would caution against that thinking because that's not true, right? We're trained to think that way. You're not going to all of a sudden bust through this magic bubble and have this dream life that you had. It's getting up the mountain one step at a time. It's not easy, but there's nothing in life that ever said life should be easy. There's nothing that says we should have it easy, right? We think we should. We think we're owed something, but we're not. The reality is you will have the success that you want to have by constant action. It's a matter of every single day taking one more degree of action, and you will be surprised that by the end of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you look back and you're like, holy crap, I'm like almost up the hill. I can't believe it. So it's not like you're going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, I'm here. I'm rich. This is the life. It doesn't work that way. The other thing I would say as a final thing is be very careful setting your goals based on money and thinking that money is going to buy you the life that you want to have, because money is a digit in a bank account. It's the decimal point or a comma. You are not going to be happy. Many people I know that are multi-millionaires, they're miserable because they never did what they wanted to do. They thought the happiness was actually in the money, and it's not. It's the journey, and it's what the money buys you. It's the lifestyle that it gives you. It's not the money. So don't think money is going to make you. Don't be the someday when I have 100,000 in the bank, 500,000, 5 million. It's an illusion. Money is just an illusion. It's a tool to get you the happiness that you want to have. So don't get caught up in the number. Get caught up in the journey.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Basically, don't get caught up in that surface level goal. Like too many people say, I want to be a multimillionaire. Well, don't stop at that. Like ask yourself, why do you want to be a multimillionaire? Well, because I want to provide for my family. Like, well, why do you want to provide for your family? You just keep breaking it down. I think that's kind of a gold nugget on how to avoid that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Absolutely. Steve, do you want to tell people what you got going on in your life and maybe where they can find you and learn a little bit more about you?
Yeah. So as people follow me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Rozenberg Steve. It's Rozenberg Steve, or Facebook. I've got a mastermind that I do every week. It's called Think Tank Mastermind. I bring a lot of newer investors in that are trying to learn. I focus more on mindset because I think that's the most important thing. I've also created a full educational platform course, fully interactive with Hollywood style production, filming, showing people how to go from 0 to 1 properties, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20 syndications, and really understanding your why, because each phase of those, you have to become a different person. You have to think differently. You have to associate with different people. You have to learn different skill sets up here to be successful. Finding a deal is 4 walls and a roof. That's easy. Knowing it's the right 4 walls and the roof, and knowing that it's going to give you the life that you want and your family's happy, that's the hard part. And so I have an educational course that I do as well. That if people follow me, they can go to my website, steverozenberg.com. They can find it there. But I'm all about, I don't do this for the money. I do it because I like to help people. I love seeing that. I didn't have that when I was growing. So, you may see me, I'm on 3-4 podcasts a week. I'm down in Buenos Aires, Argentina right now. And I'm, with you guys, and I got another one after this. This is my 3rd one today. But I do it because I really think I'm helping people, and I'm helping people from a different angle of just thinking differently. And if I can do that, then you know what? I'm happy and my life is fulfilled, because I think there needs to be more people helping people than taking from them. And I think that it's very important to make sure that you always give back as much as you can. And that's what I do.
I love it.
That's awesome, Steve.
Man, I have one more final question. How important to your success is the mustache?
I don't know. It's been with me since I was 20. I'm 48 now, so it's been around. I don't know what I would look like without it. I thought of shaving it. My wife's like, no, just leave it. So it probably gives me a certain look, I guess. I'm not really sure. Most people get intimidated by me until they meet me, and then like, oh, you're actually a nice guy. And I'm like, I didn't say I wasn't. They're like, yeah, we just assumed you weren't nice. I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure how to take that. But so I've learned that, you get a certain look, a certain persona, I guess. But I like how I look. I can't complain. I'll take it. I'm 48 years old. I'm doing okay in life.
I love it. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. That was with Steve and Austin, my co-host. So signing off.